And we have our both cameras on. Our special guest has arrived, and would you believe it, in the middle of this lunacy and what's going on in the world at the moment, ladies and gentlemen, this man has made time, and he was late, but he has apologised profusely, but he's in the house, so I'm going to turn all our cameras around to our guest today and everything should work. Sean Lynch, hello sir, how are you? Great to have you on the bus. Sean, have you heard of our bus sessions?
Ray, can I be honest?
Yeah.
My wife was telling me all about it, but I apologise that I haven't had time to see them. At 12 o'clock every day I'm working.
Excellent. Well, it's great that that you're working at least, Sean, and that everything is going well. Sean, first question for you on the bus. Can you tell me, how did you get involved in the arts? The arts, tell us.
Oh my God, here's a question. Lord be good to Christy Neary.
Wow.
I was about 7 years of age in second class in St. Mary's, and he was doing a school drama Australia, the leprechaun of Paula Vuka.
Right.
With fifth class, and he wanted a small, and I happened to be the smallest in my class, and I was picked.
Right.
And ever since then I found out pretty quick I'm no good at singing.
Okay.
I can't act and I look awful, so I got involved in the backstage. My mother used to be very, very good. She was in all the shows back in the 40s, 50s and 60s.
Oh, right, yeah.
Some of my earliest memories back in the 60s when I was a wee child were of things like The Troubled Bachelors, I remember that, and Salad Days, I remember that, and my mum was singing in them, and I got to grow more for backstage. So later on, then, when John White I got involved in the review in the 70s.
Right.
Right. I remember then doing a bit as well with your uncle.
Uncle Paddy.
Yeah, a good bit with your Uncle Paddy. Okay.
And what did you do with Paddy? Like, were you involved in the Steak Festival and all that?
Yeah,
like?
there was a gang of us in the Steak Festival who used to help him put remember the five-a-side football?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, can I say this, that we never collected our wages in money.
Footballs.
No, it wasn't water, let me put it that way.
Excellent. Well, we've a lot of the gang looking in here. We've Killian Scally is looking in there, and Mark Colgan as well. So I think they're part of the crew down there.
Killian is, how are you, Killian? I think I'm seeing Killian this afternoon.
Yeah, brilliant.
But, the Art Centre is... The Art Centre, opened in, when was it, November 1998. And I was originally in the Art Centre, I was brought in as the technical advisor for sound and lights. And when the budget was cut, I remember saying at the time to Kieran McGrath, the budget was cut from 175,000 to something like 35,000. I said, you can put in the cables and all, but you're not putting in any equipment, which was true.
Right.
So ever since then, the rest is history, well-documented history.
And the Art Centre is going from strength to strength. What is planned for the Art Centre in this year or for next year? You have a lot of plans in place. Actually, you start all your plans in January. Things change dramatically. So what way is the Art Centre going for the next, till Christmas? How are we going to run?
Like every theatre stroke arts organisations in the country, the COVID lockdown absolutely decimated us.
Mm-hmm.
More so this year. We were very, how would I put this, magnanimous. Mm-hmm. We were removing ourselves from Arts Council support because of the flat. Mm-hmm. It wasn't necessary. And as the Arts Council were already penalised, our board decided we could look at the flat. And as we were the ticketing agency for the flat, and lots of the concerts were there, we would have expected a certain commercial return from our involvement.
Right.
But when the shutdown occurred on the 12th of March, that Thursday, in the week before that, 2,767 people had attended stuff that we were doing, predominantly in schools and outreach. And that was allowing for a downturn. We've over 3,000 people a week.
Yeah.
So it's been devastating. We have 7 members of staff laid off, and we have roughly 21 tutors. And I think of the 21 tutors, 12 of them are in receipt of COVID payments because they're dependent on us for their income.
Right.
Going forward, we've been trying to plan... 2 members of staff, myself and Jack, have been there, and the theatre is repainted. Every workshop is repainted. New stores are built. You've never seen the stage as spacious. We got rid of 3 lorry loads of old sets, I have to say, and we've modernised a lot of things and rearranged things, tidied up everything. We removed our sound from the side of the stage and put it up at the sound desk in the back of the auditorium. So it's a lot better. And then we started getting ready for our COVID preparedness, which has cost us a veritable fortune. We'll have very little change out of 10,000. So to say how we're hanging on by our fingernails at the moment. It doesn't look in the long term is if we'll get back to full production.
Mm-hmm.
I can't see us getting back to full production this side of next summer. That's been realistic.
Yeah.
It would take an injection, a cash injection, like assuming, God willing, that next year's flag goes ahead, that might restore some of where we were. To get our girls back working in us, we started last week a dance camp with social distancing, 2 metre square boxes marked out in the theatre, and that's limited to 36 people in the big stage, which is good, and it's 3 weeks of it. And we actually are doing singing, and the singing we're supplying face shields to them all. And we recently asked the question through Sorka Clark, brought it up in the Dolan, and in fairness, Robert Troy and Peter Burke were helping us as well. And I got the reply from the Minister for Health, the answer in relation to a simple question: should children wear face coverings when they're dancing or singing? And they referred to about 9 documents that we already had access to. And my view is they didn't answer yes or no. They gave me a bureaucratic answer, being honest. So we are using our own best guess and our own judgment, and we are insisting for all visitors to the Arts Centre that we're supplying face shields for our participants. But our first theatre event is going to be August the 14th to Matchmaker, first professional touring company. There's 37 events happening in Ireland that week, and we are making it mandatory. It's not subject to negotiation. You go to the theatre, you're going to wear a face covering. That way we would like to get back, and we're opening with only 24% capacity. Our capacity is 416. We're opening with only 100.
Jesus.
So every second row will be empty, and if you're a party of 3, there'll be nobody, the 2 seats to the left of you or the 2 seats to the right of you, and nobody in the row in front of you and the row behind you. So we're doing Matchmaker Chicago, Mary Hughes's play, and all of that with a maximum capacity of 100 in the theatre. I can't confirm yet whether I have an event on the 9th of August. I'll put it like this: it's involving the organisers of the flat, and it's not. We're working on it. We can put the 100 in, 50 in the balcony, have an independent entrance and exit, and 50 in the downstairs. The 2 groups, more or less, like they're doing in the church. So that might be happening on the 9th of August, but I haven't the I dotted yet, if you know what I mean.
Brilliant. One question for you: are you a proud Mullingar man?
Absolutely, true and true. One of the, I can't say strong enough about it. Anywhere I've ever gone in my life, I say this everywhere, it's the music capital of Ireland.
Yeah, exactly.
I say that now, and they talk about, everybody will say Joe,
yeah,
and Niall Horan and Bressie, and I say no, Eilish Tynan,
yeah,
Emmet Cahill, The Academic,
yeah,
Conor Quinn, Graham Dowling and the boys, Fallen Knights, everything. You look at Marty's tent. Did you see Marty's thing that he put up on Facebook? I think that was brilliant. The guy might be mad, but he's a genius.
It does help.
Sometimes, you know what? I think the best people are a little bit mad. I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Marty, forgive me. I love you. You're brilliant. But I think that thing that he did about Trump was brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Some people told me they couldn't understand it. Well, then I can't help them. Specsavers are doing hearing aids.
We definitely have, but we have, as I said, we've abundance of talent in Mullingar, and it just goes on and on through, as I said, the arts. And you've seen a lot of it coming through the town, and as well as that, like, you've seen all other artists coming through town as well, so they help in some shape or form, especially like all the kids in your group down there. They get inspired by other acts coming through town, and they learn a lot more from each other, you know, and the other acts, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a source of, one of the greatest personal pride I take, and one has to be careful that not accused of being over proud about it, is our alumni. Like, it's a personal pride that Mark Irwin and Daniel Egerton are 2 of only 5 Irish people ever to get the Lloyd Webber Scholarship. It's a huge, immense pride where Ruth Alger is at the moment. And when we're talking about Ruth, and when she was being interviewed earlier on, she said that she got a love of the theatre from the Arts Centre. She was in Student Players back in 2004, 5 and 6.
Yeah.
And it's when you see your alumni like that. When I look at the kids that I use kids, they're going to slap me for that.
Yeah.
I've Sarah Corrigan down there. If I look at Sarah and having come through where we are now, and say Daniel is teaching with us, Ursula Maher is teaching with us, and I look at all the girls we have. There's lack of employment opportunities really, unless you're a bureaucrat. Regrettably, the arts in this country, and I'll stay away from the political side of this, but I have to say this, is overburdened with administration.
Yeah.
As I tend to think most public service things are. we have far too many administrators and not enough frontline providers. If we had more guards, security and teachers and doctors and nurses, I think we'd have a better country. But that's just a personal view. I regret to say that the arts have become very, very administrative. You only have to look at the Abbey and say, how is it spending $6 million a year and putting on productions that aren't featuring many Irish actors, and they're making profits? So where's the $6 million going? Or if I even went into other things that could be controversial about the U2 initiative, you know, the music generation. The schools are paying more than the artists are getting, which means that the 3 million that U2 put in, plus the other 3 million, 6 million, plus the profits from the tutors going into the schools, is all gone on administration. And I think our administration has gone too expensive.
Yeah.
In a failed attempt last year, I would have liked to have asked questions about it, but anyways, that's another day's work. And those of you that know me is probably will say I'm not the best person in the world at filling forms.
Tell me, what qualities would you look for in a lead role person? Or a person who take the lead role?
Confidence.
Yeah.
Now, some people might say confidence. That doesn't mean that they're outgoing or arrogant. One of the things that we teach in our state schools from a very, very young age is for children growing into teenagers, growing into adults, to be confident in their own selves without being arrogant. And there's a very thin line there. If you have the ability, and talent is no different in Mullingar, in my opinion. If I may use a football analogy or hurling analogy, the grass or the water is no different in Kilkenny. So why did they get such football or such hurling teams in Kilkenny? The reason is simple: to train them from much younger, much more intensely. So if we start to train them, so if I want to be, without somebody saying that I'm arrogant in this, since the Arts Centre went in, I can say categorically, in the year before the Arts Centre went in, you were a live entertainer. Many places were doing live entertainment in Mullingar. You could count them on one hand, being honest with you, right?
Yeah.
And you had the local group, Lakeland Productions, and the Charity Variety Group. We were lucky to be at two. So there was two there. Have a look at the abundance that has exploded in the last few years. So when people go and start groups somewhere else, I sit back and I do the, there's another little notch on our board.
Yeah.
Other groups start. So we are singing. There is one thing I said about being a proud Mullingar man, and I am, and I love Mullingar. I think there's everything in it. Sometimes we leave a little bit to be desired at encouraging ourselves.
Yeah.
We might be a little bit begrudging of our own.
Yeah.
If I may use an analogy, we tend to suffer from I remember when you know Arsene's trouser syndrome.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we always like to bring our top people back to ground level, which I think is not necessarily good. And even your own Uncle Joe, I would argue, until he moved out in Mullingar, was never as... People might take me on this one. But I remember some disparaging things being said about Joe. But when he became, and the talent that he had and the talent that he was absolutely, he had the accolades he got. But there was still a bit of begrudging at times. And I've seen that.
But I think it's a natural thing in the Midlands, and I think it's a natural thing in our own minds sometimes, because you put barriers in front of yourself. And I don't know whether it's living in being surrounded, we've no sea, and we're not fair enough to a certain amount of people travelling, but if you go around the sea areas, everyone travels somewhere else in the world. And so the most important thing, I think, is travel that brings it all back. So no matter if you are in town and you're saying, oh my God, this is a bad town, or this is that and the other, you have the problem is inside you. So the next minute you go away and then you come back and you go, Jesus, I missed all this. Or, you know, we have so much in our town. So travel, I think, is a huge thing that broadens everyone's mind. They come back with a whole different mindset, you know what I mean?
It is.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that the youth coming up will have a more pluralistic view on life.
Yeah. They're worldwide to see the people looking at the machine.
I ask all my staff, and I ask all the people I work with, especially say directing. We're doing Chicago at the moment, and I've asked 5. There's a thing in it called the cell block Tango, where the girls show how to murder, and we want to do 5 little movies of the shoots. And I said, I'm not going to direct them for you. I want them. So we've set up teams. Actually, I have to meet them this afternoon about it, and I'm letting them, the young people, direct themselves, and I'm not giving them any predetermined outcomes or ideas. They have to come up with the idea. So what I say to people is, my walk of life is, don't give me a problem, give me a solution.
Yeah.
If it's dark, I don't have to have a committee meeting to tell me to light a candle. You know what I mean? You know what I mean by that.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? I could give my views about some of the things that are happening in Mullingar, where
Yeah.
they could have lit a candle instead of having all the committee meetings. You know, in
True
relation
enough, but I mean,
traffic, etc. But handing
you're
it's too
giving,
nice.
you know, what you're doing is you're giving your students a tool, and you're showing them to say, like, so fair enough. They make all the videos, and then you come back and they say, what do you think of this one? And you go, well, I think this, and I think this, and they think this, and they're thinking to themselves, he's right or he's wrong, but they're still making the decision between the two, going, well, actually, I do agree with him, or I don't agree with him. But you're creating that sort of that mixture of saying, you know, to make something. And I'd say it's so important, especially with social media nowadays. Everyone can learn everything because it's all on the phone, and you can do whatever you like. Even with myself starting this, I put the phone up and I went for it, right? But I don't mind looking at myself, and I don't mind listening to myself. But a lot of people don't like listening to themselves or looking at themselves, and that's sort of a barrier. You know.
Right, social media, because you're opening up a can of worms there. There's a whole new, you know that term, keyboard warriors.
Yeah.
There's a whole myriad of things that you can get into there.
Yeah.
There are those in life that talk about doing things.
Yeah,
there are those
correct.
that tell us how we should do things.
Yeah.
And then there are those that do things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have much time for the first two. Let me put it that way to you. Being honest.
Yeah,
about it.
exactly. Because you're a doer. You go and do it. If it's wrong, it's wrong. It's right, it's right. But you still went and done it, and that's
Yeah.
the most important thing. And that's the most important thing to teach your students.
If anybody, myself in particular, for example, I have never directed a show 100%.
Yeah.
Ever.
To yourself.
No, but I have never directed it 100%. I wouldn't have the cheek to stand up and say that show was 100% me. It's a team effort.
Yeah.
And to think that I would have a monopoly on ideas, far from it. This old fella having monopoly on ideas, rubbish. The ideas would come from the people you're working with. The same in any walk of life.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go through life that you've got this mantra that it's my way or the highway,
Yeah.
it's going to be a very lonely road.
Yeah.
It really is. You have to embrace other people. And sometimes it happens, especially with position of authority. People in authority get this idea, they've got stripes, that, you know, they look on help as a weakness.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I say to the kids. They consider asking for help a weakness. I consider it a weakness not to take the help. You know, especially if you've got somebody old,
Yeah.
and antiquated like you know who here. If you listen to them. So you have to be a good listener, believe it or not.
Getting back to the arts anyway, how does anyone get involved in the arts centre, between whether it's children or adults? If there's someone who feels that they have a bit of sort of artness in them, how do they get involved? What's the first? Do you go up to the reception and say, I want to get involved here?
It depends on the level, right? From a local production point of view, say for example, you know that new Mad Musical Society?
Yeah.
There was the Charity Variety Group in Lakeland Productions years ago were carrying the mantra called for an amateur musical
That's right,
society
yeah.
in town. And the Charity Variety Group continued that, and they increased it and did great things with supporting the charity. That has turned, there was a lack of it happening, so the Arts Centre promoted a musical society for a number of years.
Mm-hmm.
Now we also did it for another reason, that the pantomime, we wanted to make it lean and mean, and we were aiming the pantomime to become more professional. So we created a musical society to have an outlet for the untrained, let me put it like that.
Mm-hmm.
I always find the word amateur society slightly derogatory, because they're sometimes more talented than what I've seen in the professional world, to be perfectly honest.
Right.
So leaving that aside, the how would I put it? The torch was passed over to a new group that formed MAD. I love the acronym.
Yeah.
Mullingar District Musical Society. I think Rita Gilmar came up with that. And I think that's brilliant. Now, COVID is after giving them a kick as well.
Okay.
So they've come back. So anybody can get involved with that. There's other groups in town for drama, like Paul Curley has a group, himself and Mary Hughes are getting together. They have a thing on in the Arts Centre on the 26th of August. I'm not sure that date. Mary Hughes is going to kill me.
Yeah.
So if you're involved in that, we have two groups in the Arts Centre that we work with from a drama. Rail, which we have aspired that it would be a touring group that has used professional actors, and Little Brother, which is the local community actor. Again, I'm referring from using the A word. And if you want to be involved in something like that, Little Brother will do productions on a regular basis. For example, a group of young teenagers, Lucy Holmes, Niamh Malarkey, and a few others are coming together. And they did a piece last year in September, and they're doing another piece in a couple of weeks to start. So the centre will promote or produce that for them. The centre will take the financial risk. Now, not much of a risk involved when you're putting on like something like that. In fairness to them, they're quite good and talented, and they will produce it. They will direct it, produce it themselves. We'll supply the expertise. We'll do the sets, lights for them, and we'll cover the publicity and all, and we will use that. And that's a way of us getting the local community involved in place of the local theatre society that you have in all the other towns. So if anybody has an idea, wants to do something, some of the things, we turn away nobody.
Okay.
I think there's only 3 things we can't have in the art centre.
Not to worry. Look, tell me, you're doing a thing with all the schools all around the area of Westmeath. Is that still running? How's that going? Is that going to be on this year?
Yeah, we had already produced in December, in January, 18 productions of Aladdin.
Yeah, well done.
From schools all over the county. And we were working with 8 or 9 more schools. I know we were doing Tubberclare, Ballymahon and others. And of the schools that we were doing at the lockdown, 7 of them have confirmed they'd like to continue. Again, we're lacking direction, specific direction from the powers that be to say you can do this, because the schools haven't got the parameters that they're opening yet. There's a thing about what's the definition of a visitor into school, or it's one of our tutors, if she's going in or he's going in the morning to say it's St. Mary's CBS and in the afternoon they're in at Dolan. Is that permissible?
Yeah.
There's loads of,
and that's after throwing a huge spanner in the works of the art centre, like.
It is.
Yeah.
We would, last year, at the time of close down, we were working with 3 secondary schools, Wilson's, CBS and Columba College, and working with 27 primary schools at the point of closure on the 12th of March.
Wow.
So that was 31 schools we were actively involved in. That's why our numbers are so high. I don't know. We're planning with the 7 schools, we're planning to put continue Aladdin. And we're planning to put Peter Pan out available. So I've had preliminary talks with some of the schools, and there's an appetite there, let me put it like that. I feel we can do Peter Pan in particular, the junior version of it, we can do that and still conform to social guidelines.
Excellent.
In the art centre, if you were wearing a face mask and you're nobody sitting in front of you or nobody sitting behind you, and you're not going around blowing sneezes into anybody's face, we have an air handling system that will clear the auditorium out in approximately 3 minutes, from air in and air out. So we've got good airflow in the art centre.
Tell me, during the break, did you work non-stop? Were you in the art centre?
Yeah. No, I'm taking a staycation.
Look, you're a legend. We could talk all day. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we are delighted that Sean has made it on board, and we look forward to going down to the art centre and checking out what's going on down there.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah, indeed.
Really, really quick. Tickets, since the article in the papers this week, I have to say, tickets have started to sell again for the pantomime. Let us assure everybody, the pantomime has been performed, no interval, straight through, 80-something minutes, 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And when I've finished writing it with Angie, which is another day's work, but tickets are on sale and it is selling well again, thankfully.
What's the phone number of the art centre? Do you know?
934 7777.
There you are, folks. Sean Lynch, the legend. How many years are you in the art centre now? Do you know?
22.
You had the president down recently. Was that the top of... Do you think that was the best day ever in the art centre?
Sprinting Windows was undoubtedly, of the 21 years, I'd say, the highlight, yeah.
Right.
That was our 3rd presidential visit.
Oh, sure. He's always down, sure. Right, good luck, folks. Thanks for looking in.
Cheerio.
Bye.